Hello, welcome to a new Venlearn Editor tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about the Venlearn Editor overview. The Venlearn Editor is a tool that helps you create academic content such as content for computer-based testing, as well as content for your library to be used in the Venlearn software. So the first screen you're seeing is the project management screen. Currently, we have no recent projects. So the first thing we have to do is to create a new project. If you have an existing project, you can select Open Existing Project and choose a project from your file system. But we'll create a new project for a start. You click on Create New Project, you select where you want the projects to be saved, and you can say, name the project, say New Demo. So it opens this blank canvas where you can see the home screen. So the first thing we are going to do here is to create a new assessment. Currently, there are no assessments. So to create a new assessment, you right-click on the assessment node and click on Add Assessment. Now, you have added an assessment. After adding an assessment, the next thing you're going to do, you can add a subject. So right-click on the assessment you added, and you can add a subject. For example, you can create a subject. Say you want to add biology. Remember, when you create, it creates a default for your, for example, the untitled assessment. We can decide to rename it to JSS1 assessment. So whatever assessment you're trying to assess the students on. So after creating the subjects, the next thing we are going to do, there are some properties that we need to set. So for example, you can see that both JSS1 assessment and biology have 4 issues indicated here, and the 4 issues in the editor can be seen with a red text. Paper code is not set, question type is not set. There are so many things we need to set. Also, the issues can be visualized in the issue pane at the top, at the bottom right. Right? So in order for us to clear the issues, we ensure that we do settings that are necessary. Before we proceed, let's set the question type in biology to be multiple choice single select. In another tutorial, we can talk more about the properties, each of them, and you know what they do. So after setting the question type for biology, we need to set question type before we can add a question group. That's why we had to do it. Then you can add a new question group. You can right-click and create a new question group. Currently, we do not have any question group. You can create a new question group and name it, say, Group 1. So it's more like a container for questions. You can group questions into multiple groups and assign different students to those groups. Now you have created the question group. The next thing is to add questions. So you can add questions singly like this, or as well, you can add multiple questions at the same time. So you want to add 2 extra questions, we can just put the number of questions here and click on submit. So you can see that we now have question 1, question 2, and question 3. Now, this brings me to a new conversation we need to have where we talk about the different parts of the editor. Now, before we continue with the questions, this is what we call the question type pane or the assessment type pane. So currently you can see that this is the question explorer and this is the study materials explorer. Study materials is another topic on its own. We are going to talk about how we can create study materials. Apart from creating assessment content, we can also create study material content, but let's go back to assessments. So this first item is for assessment, the second item is for study materials. Now, you can also see the title bar over here. The title shows you the title of the project. In our case, it's new demo.venc project. Venc project is a short form of Venlearn content project. You can also see a 2-star to indicate that the project is yet to be saved. The moment we save the project, the 2 stars will be gone. Then we also have 2 menu items called the file and the account. Now, the next item we have is what we call the Explorer pane or the tree view. So this is where we see and visualize the structure of our content. For example, the container is the assessment, contains currently 1 assessment. We may decide to add another assessment by right-clicking and adding a second assessment. Then after adding assessments, we can add subjects associated with the assessment. After adding subjects, we can add group. Mind you, not only 1 subject. If these assessments have multiple subjects, we can decide to add a new subject. You can create the subject here and say second subject could be chemistry. You can see it has added the chemistry, but chemistry currently don't have any item under it. So in a similar way, we can add the groups under chemistry. Also, after biology, we can see there's a group under biology. You can have multiple groups, and groups are containers for questions. So now, at this point, we go to the main contents area. So this is the central area is more like the main contents area. And you can see the assessment title pane where we have the current nodes, currently selected node. At the left side or the Explorer pane, each of the items are called nodes. And you can click on each of the nodes and navigate between them. So as you navigate between them, the Explorer title shows. We are currently selected biology. That's why we have biology selected. Under it, you can see the breadcrumb, how the biology content is selected from assessment to JSS1 down to biology. In a similar way, we select the group or the question, we'll also see it here. Then under that, we also have the tabs to show the currently selected question. We can decide to switch here or switch back through these tabs, however way we want. Now, after the Explorer title pane, we have the properties. Properties are one of the backbone of Venlearn Editor. Every item or every field is a property. And properties help us determine how our questions should be, how they should be structured, and how the clients will see the questions. For example, this is a property for the number of questions, the question number. So we can decide to leave it as 1 here. And then this is a property for the question, which is what you see is what you get editor. So we can start entering our question here directly. And we have various tools to format our questions, just like we have it in any editor like MS Word. So all the items under the central area are the main properties. They are core to the system. But we also have other properties called the sub-properties, which is at the right pane. Sub-properties are other supporting properties that helps add other capabilities to a question. For example, you can increase the number of options to this question from 4 to 5 to 6 to whatever number you want. You can change the question type, you can set the correct option or do so many other things. In a different tutorial, we're going to talk about the properties and what they do. So after the properties pane, under it, we have what we call the issue pane. The good thing about this software is as you develop your content, you are seeing the various issues with it in real time. So you don't have to wait until it's time to export before you see that there are problems with your content. You can see currently for question 1, there are 6 issues as indicated here, as well as indicated here. The issue pane can show you what exactly is wrong with the issue. You can see that the questions is not set. Option A down to option D is not set. Correct option is not set. So the issues are showing you the most important things we need to set before we can proceed with this question. If these things are not set, then the question cannot be exported. After that, we are also going to talk about the context menu. Now, each of these properties, when you right-click each of these nodes here, when you right-click on them, you're going to see other capabilities that can be done on them. So for example, under JSS1 assessment, there are some other things you can do. You can rename, you can copy, you can cut, you can duplicate, you can delete, you can do so many other things. We're going to talk about the meaning of each of these items in subsequent tutorials. Also, under the Question Explorer, you have the ability to navigate between questions using the arrows or the Explorer action menu. You can as well add a new question from here, or you can right-click here to add the question. If you want to add a new question here, make sure a question is selected and you click Add. It automatically adds a question 4 for you. You can as well refresh. Sometimes you may want to be sure that what you're developing is still what it is. You can refresh to ensure everything is in sync. You can move down, you can move up, as the case may be, through the Explorer actions. Also, another thing is the properties pane. Now, the property is currently selected, but you can also preview. Because we are yet to enter the question in itself, there are no items in the preview, but the moment we start typing questions, the preview gets populated. So you can see the question. If you type the options will also get populated. Also, the third item here is what we call the quick action menu. Sometimes there are some quick actions we want to do without having to go through the Explorer or the tree view. We can do that from here. For example, we can duplicate, we can delete, we can preview, as well as we can renumber any item as the case may be. So if we go back, we also have the AI pane. We're going to talk about AI in another tutorial. The reason we have this error is because AI required that some things are set because there are some issues with the content. We're prompted to fix these issues before our AI view would be shown to us. Now, another thing we didn't talk about is some of the context menu items you can view can also be viewed from here. So in some cases, you may want to view a context menu item by right-clicking on the number instead of the node itself. This is particularly useful because Venlearn allows you to collapse those certain panes. For example, if you don't want to see the tree view, you can collapse it this way. You now have better screen real estate. This is particularly useful if you want to remove all distractions. For example, if I toggle the preview here, I can sort of split my screen into two so that I can see what I'm typing. I can just focus on the question and the preview. So in that case, if I need to do anything more like to duplicate this, instead of me to go through the tree view, I can do here and I can right click on the number and click on duplicates, and it creates a copy of that question for me and gives it a particular name. There are also other things we didn't mention. For example, if I bring back the tree node or the tree view, there is what we call the breadcrumbs. These are what shows us the currently selected node. We can decide to move between them and we can see how it happens. We can as well move between nodes this way and move back in the same way. Now, let's go and see how we can get the issues off. Remember, I told you that issues, the editor shows you the issues you have with your currently selected node in real time. So you can see for the assessment, there are so many things. We have 4 issues, and we can clearly see the 4 issues here. We can as well see it from the different properties. We are yet to set an assessment code, which is necessary. To do that, we can generate a default assessment code. You see that the issues have reduced to 3 now. Then assessment type is yet to be set. We can set a random assessment type and say exam, and then set the other option, show result after assessment to yes, show answers after assessment to no. Remember, we are still going to fix the issues with properties. There's a lot to learn from properties. So as we talk about the different nodes, we're going to talk about the properties in full. Then we'll go back to biology. We also set paper code by generating a random one, set the number of questions. Currently, we have 6 questions. So we can say, let's limit it to 3 questions and focus on 3. Let's delete the other ones. So for this question now, we need to set duration also in biology because there's one issue with biology. So to set the duration, all we need to do is to scroll through and find the issue and set the duration. Let's say we want to give 5 minutes for the 3 questions. So you can see biology has no issue again. But it's still showing orange color. The default color should be dark, meaning that its descendant has an issue. So usually, there's no issue with the assessment, there's no issue with the subject, there's no issue with the group, but they're still orange. Orange colors indicate errors. The reason they're orange is because they have descendants that have issues. So in order for these issues to be cleared, the color should be restored to the normal dark color. We need to clear the issues in question 1, question 2, and question 3. So let's remove chemistry here for simplicity. So we go to the question, so we can now start typing the question. So let's type some random values because of time. So as we type, we discover that the number of issues counts for that node is reducing. So we choose correct option, which is option B. So you discover that question 1 has no issue, is now, the normal color is now restored, which is dark, the text color. The reason it's not orange is because it has no descendants. Now we do the same thing for question 2 and question 3 and see how the other ancestors will have their color restored to the normal color. So the system allows you to So you can see now that the moment we fix the 3 questions, the issues with the 3 questions, you can see clearly that all the nodes have been restored to their normal state, which is dark. So at this point, our editor is good to go. We have an error-free content we can export. At this point, this is more like the overview of the Venlearn Editor. In subsequent tutorials, we are going to dive in and learn more about the other features of the app, talk deeply about the properties, the different nodes, and other features that the editor can handle. Also, there's also another feature, drag and drop. We may decide to drag a question from one point to the other. For example, we can put question 1 in between question 2 and 3. We can bring question 3 in between question 2 and 1. We can do that. We can also copy and paste. For example, if I have a new group called group 2, now you can add questions to group 2. You can copy here and then paste it here. And I say drag and drop and see the question. You can also cut and paste. So when you cut and paste, the question leaves the previous group and goes to a new group. After all changes is done, we need to save our project. To save our project, we can click on File and Save, or we can use the shortcut Command S or Control S, depending on the system you are saving from.